Hey, this is Garret Price, and you're listening to the Dynasty Hot Seat.
Yes, hello everybody, and welcome back once again to the Dynasty Hot Seat. You know what it is? It's the only Dynasty show out there that's a certified inferno. And today we got, well, to be honest, every single time we do an episode, I introduce the person next to me, but you guys are probably thinking, who's this guy sitting next to Garret Price? I'm Connor. I host the Dynasty Hot Seat. This is Garret Price next to me, one of the best analysts, the best names, the best guys in Dynasty Fantasy Football, and it is my genuine honor to have him onto the show. Part of, full discretion, he's part of my favorite podcast, guys. Not even my favorite sports podcast. It's my favorite podcast, so I'm fanboying out a little bit. Garrett, thank you so much for coming on. How are you doing this fine day?
Oh man, I'm doing great. That was a very, very flattering intro, so I appreciate it, man. But yeah, no, I enjoy coming on shows and getting to chop it up, talk about Dynasty fantasy football. Look, this is what I do for fun anyway, so if I get to meet new people and talk about it with them too, like, dope, let's do it.
Awesome. I absolutely love it. And for those wondering, regular listeners, yes, I'm in slightly different surroundings here. I'm actually back in Northern Ireland. My brother's getting married, so forgive my childhood bedroom in the background, guys. We'll get back to the Hall of Flame and everything next week. So before we get rolling, just want to say, if you're listening or watching, please, give this a thumbs up, give this 5 stars, give it whatever you can to help keep this going and keep spreading. We're hitting almost all of our targets. I'm blown away with the sport. So thank you everyone listening, and let's keep rolling with it. And let's get rolling right into segment number 1, which is the art of war. And that is hints and tips that Garrett's got for us for, Dynasty players, new or old or anything in between. So Garrett, what are your hints and tips for us?
Yeah. So I got a few different ones that I had thought of when I saw this. The first one is in your startup drafts or in your rookie draft. So obviously startup, it's the beginning of your new league. Rookie, you do that every single year. Take the best player available. I know that sounds so simplistic and that sounds so easy. It's like, well, duh, take the best guy. But I can't tell you how often where people are like, dang, I need a running back. And all of a sudden they're drafting, if it was in this draft class, all of a sudden they're drafting Dameon Pierce over Garrett Wilson, and you're like, no, take the best player that's on the board. Don't worry about your needs. You can always, and that's the beauty of Dynasty, you can always make trades later. So as tempting as it is, and as, you see your running backs and you see how few you have, or your tight ends, and see how sparse it is, just take the best players on the board and then trade later to fill in depth, to trade later to fill in your needs. It's tempting to do it the other way around, but I promise you, you'll be much better off if you don't.
Yeah, absolutely. We're kind of coming all the way full circle back to, the first episode, which I did on my own. That was my very first tip as well. Just, the season starts eventually, and these players will be, who's got the most value whenever the season will start, So you're right. You take the best player there, the one that you can maybe trade with later and make your team even better. So yeah, absolutely love it. And you're right. It may seem obvious, but man, sometimes the obvious thing is the best thing.
So sometimes you just need a friendly little reminder. But
yeah.
The second tip that I have here, and this one's a little bit more advanced. So we kind of gave you a beginner one. This one's this is next level. But I highly, highly recommend 2 things for people as far as coming to your rookie drafts. 1, try to get your hands on all 22 tape. Now, I know that sounds easier said than done, but all 22 tape is almost a necessity in order to really be able to see the whole field. And we have it at Dynasty Nerds. You can get it for $3 a month. Like, come join us. It'd be great. But the second thing, and I think even more so important than it, but they tie in together, you learn the basic concepts of blocking schemes. You don't have to be a blocking scheme expert. You don't have to understand every nuance of the duo blocking scheme or anything like that, but understand the basics of the gap scheme, the man scheme, the zone scheme. Just learn the basics of it, because specifically when you watch these running backs, people will say, this guy has great vision. Well, not really. That was how the play was designed, So if you can learn some of those nuances, you don't have to be an expert, but learn the basics. It'll go really far in helping you evaluate the running back position.
Yeah, I love that as well. And, I can tell, from experience as a fully fledged nerd herd member myself, that film room is honestly, it's the best out there. It is a must have. And you're right. You guys sell all the time for the price of a cup of coffee. It really does, take things to the next level. And I love that about, especially understanding the running back. Some of the best advice you guys always give, which I always try and pick up on, is this player is, good in the pass blocking game. So they're probably going to end up on a roster. If they're on a roster, they got a chance. And at running back, sometimes you just need a chance, and that's it.
100% accurate. You know what I just realized? My daughter just recently turned 7, and there was a reflection in my Jerry Rice thing here of her 7 balloon that's floating around. I didn't even notice that until this moment. Yeah. So if it looks like there's something weird happening in the background, it's the reflection through the window. It's just a balloon. Don't mind that.
Yeah, there's no one creeping up in your house or anything.
I don't think so. Yeah. Hopefully not. Yeah, I think we're good.
Cool. Nice. So I love that second tip for everyone playing. Yeah, a bit more advanced, but yeah, you're right. It's good to dig into the trenches sometimes as well. So what do you got for us for your third tip, Garrett?
All right, the third tip is one that can work for anyone in any league, whether it's Dynasty, redraft, best ball, whatever. Know your league mates. Know your league mates. The more you can learn about your league mates, the better, because there's certain guys that have certain tendencies in their drafts or in their trades. So this is more on the game theory side of things, but there's some guys that love getting young quarterbacks. They want to scoop up all the young quarterbacks in every draft they can. Well, sometimes you can use that to your advantage, or a guy that is a diehard, whatever, fill in the blank team. He loves the Minnesota Vikings. He loves the Green Bay Packers. He loves whatever. Use that to your advantage. There are guys that always want rookies. They want as many rookie picks and draft picks as they can. Sometimes you can use that to your advantage. So learn as much as you can about your league and your league makes. And it can be tough if it's a brand new league where you don't know anybody and you just got started up. That's all right. Go to their Twitter profiles then. Go talk to them, chat it up with them. Ask some other people in the league, whatever you got to do, but start learning information about people in your league, because the more you know their tendencies, the more you know those little details about them, the better you'll be able to take advantage in certain trades, drafts, and things like that.
Yeah, I love that. That's kind of why, this whole segment 1 is called, the art of war, because it's all about knowing your enemy. It's a tip, that comes up all the time. You got to know who you're playing with. I've had some sneaky people on here saying sometimes they will ask little questions, in the league, true or false one. Sometimes people will put up polls, just to figure out what people are up to. So just poke and prod and try and figure out what's going on. So, I absolutely love those 3 hints and tips. And, now we're about to get into the meat of the episode, and we're going to put Garrett in the hot seat for a startup mock draft coming right up. Okay, here we are. Part number 2. We got Garrett sitting firmly in the hot seat. Now, Garrett, how's that seat feeling for you?
It's warm. I'm getting a little moist over here.
Well, let's see how you feel at the end. I'm pretty sure, you're in familiar territory here as well. We got the Dynasty Nerds mock draft tool, you know and love it. Hopefully we'll be able to see how pro maneuvers around this here today, as we got our usual 12 team, 18 rounds, super flex startup draft. And first question for you, Garrett, is, in an ideal world, if you were allowed to choose what position you start from, what position would you pick, and why would you do that?
So assuming that there's no trading involved, because in my startups, I trade like a madman. So assuming that there's no trading involved, I like the 3 spot. The reason being is I think there are 3 elite quarterbacks right now. And I feel very, very good about any one of those three. So I'll take the advantage in the second round as opposed to having to wait till the turn. I'll get that pick a little bit earlier. So I like the 3 spots so I can get my hands on either Mahomes, Josh Allen, or Justin Herbert.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's, fast becoming the most popular kind of spot for people now as well. Everyone can kind of see there is a bit of a tier break after those top guys at quarterback. So let's, no time like the present. Let's roll right into it and see which one of those top 3 guys you get. Or will Garrett pull a bit of a wild card and actually select DJ Dallas as his number 1 pick off the board?
That's tempting. I'm not gonna lie, that is pretty tempting. Yeah, and speaking of tempting, I mean, there's always, the temptation to take Jonathan Taylor or, one of these wonderful young wide receivers, Chase or Justin Jefferson, but it's clearly Herbert for me, hands down. I think this is going to be our easiest pick of the entire draft.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's Justin Herbert with a bullet here. Like you're right. Sometimes in some startups, you might see a Jonathan Taylor fly off the wall here. Maybe someone's a really big, Jamar Chase guy, but you're right. Following your advice at the very first starting point of the show, you got to take the best player there, and the best player there for your team is Justin Herbert. So you're right. Could be the easiest pick all night as we roll into pick number 2. We'll pause our draft, and as you know, obviously, I'm allowed to filter in positions and show you different positions if you'd like. So just let me know what you need me to do.
Yeah. So round 2 is where it gets really interesting. Obviously those top couple receivers went off the board. I was hoping that AJ Brown might still be available, but he's gone. So basically what we have is we have the option to either take our second quarterback here, or a wide receiver. Because it's not a tight end premium, I'm not really looking at tight end here, especially with Kyle Pitts already off the board. Running backs, it's just a lot of older guys. I just don't think that there's the value here. So it really comes down to, do I want to take a guy like Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, or would I rather go with a young receiver? And I think the guy that's staring me down right now, that would be my selection, would be Debo Samuel.
Yeah, Debo Samuel, after last year, he's just, screams value there as well. And what I've asked a few people as well is, can you imagine if like Sleeper give Debo that wide receiver running back like combo? Like what would that do for his value?
That would be pretty wild. That would be pretty wild for sure. The hard part is a lot of times you think you would use him in the receiver position, but there's a lot of teams that really have needs at running back and like to build heavy with wide receivers. So if you're able to plug him in on weeks where you needed him in the running back spot, that would be pretty nice. Yeah,
I think it's just maybe just Jarrett Patterson at the minute that's done it, but Debo's taken enough snaps at running back that they might consider it. But that might break the internet for a few weeks actually if that happens. I think
that would be pretty wild.
Now here we go. We're in round number 3. Somebody you talked about just earlier, Russell Wilson is still sitting there on the board along with Justin Fields, interestingly above Trevor Lawrence there as well.
Yeah, and that's probably how I would rank it. I'm a believer in Fields. I had them neck and neck last year, and we just saw more from Fields. They were both in bad situations last year, and we just saw more upside from Fields. But I still got to go Russell Wilson here. As tempting as Justin Fields is, there just wasn't enough proof for me to feel sure. And in the first 4 rounds or so, I can't miss. I can't miss in my startup. That really sets you back a long ways. Even if you miss out on some potential upside, you really just can't miss. And Russell Wilson's still young enough. I believe he's 33 years old. So we're still looking at a good 5-6 years left that he's going to be able to be playing at a high level. So that would be my selection.
Yeah, I like Russell Wilson. I'm really, well, as a Chiefs fan, I'm not that excited to see how he does. I'm a little bit afraid to see how he does, but as a dynasty player, I'm so excited to see, that he's finally, let Russell cook's obviously been a term for ages, but I think he'll finally be allowed to cook. Yeah, and let's see what he can do with those amazing weapons.
Absolutely. No, he's got the potential to ball out, and he's got my boy Javonte Williams there, so he'll be fine.
Yes, of course, Javonte going to have a massive season. You can only imagine. And
Unreal.
and here we go. We're at the back end of the fourth round now, as we see some older prospects up there like DeAndre Hopkins and Travis Kelce, and then one of your guys, I know Terry McLaurin still sitting there as well as some other massive talent. So anyone standing out for you?
Did I miss it? Did Mark Andrews already get taken?
I'll check. Let me just check the tight ends.
Let's see the tight end position.
Yeah, I don't see him
all right,
there.
he must have went.
So yeah, he must have just snuck off the board there.
Okay. All right. This is a tough spot for me. Chances are I would be looking to trade down in a real life situation because I think that the talent gap is not very big in here.
Yeah.
I'm tempted to grab a running back, but I'm not overly high on Cam Akers, Travis Etienne. I like Josh Jacobs, but he's somebody I think that could easily come back to us.
Yeah.
So I'm leaning on going Terry McLaurin if I had to pick here, but George Kittle's very tempting as well.
Yes, as well, like, with your tight end position here, even though it's not tight end premium, just to have that the safety blanket, like you don't have to worry about it. It's like I'm gonna put George Kittle in, but I think maybe a few injuries might make you a bit apprehensive about having him as you're locked in tight end one. So yeah, Terry McLaurin there, a bit of a safer option in terms of how healthy he's been at least.
Yeah, absolutely. So that I think I would go with McLaurin, but it's really close for me.
Cool. Let's get Terry McLaurin locked up. And so I've seen a few articles about Terry McLaurin, and I actually was hoping that he would come up on this show because I know you're a big believer in Terry McLaurin. So his ADP seems to always be higher than where he finishes, on a season-to-season basis. So for everyone listening, what would you say to people about, this is the time to go and take advantage of that little dip in value that Terry McLaurin's getting right now and go get him?
Yeah, I think the reason that I feel solid about him is looking into a lot of the Carson Wentz numbers. I know people don't like Carson Wentz, and I understand that he's had some obviously bad situations, some bad plays, some glaringly like, what the heck were you doing moments. But he's actually been a really solid quarterback, a really solid fantasy quarterback, and he's been good for intermediate and deep passes over the past year as well. So I think Terry McLaurin's actually, this is the best quarterback that he's had. And worst case scenario, there's rumors that he might get traded. If that's the case, can't imagine to somebody worse. It's going to be to a team that has a good quarterback that needs another receiver to help put him over the top. So I feel pretty safe and solid about Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, I think that's a great point about Wentz. As someone like, I kind of own a lot of shares of Carson Wentz. I didn't really intend to. It's kind of how it's happened. And I'm happy putting him in. You're right. He does score highly. He was he was top 15 QB last year. I think.
He was QB 13 this past year.
Yeah, like he's a solid guy, and I think throwing it deep to Terry McLaurin can only bring good things to him. So it's great that we got him locked up there in the fourth round, and we're on the clock again in round number 5.
My heart breaks because I thought George Kittle was about to fall to us. We were going to get both. But unfortunately we did not. So once again, I'm interested in the running backs, but there's none that really scream value to me. And this is why I preach best player available, because this is where it would be tempting to say, like, take, a running back that you don't believe in necessarily over a receiver that you think might be better long-term asset. But then you look and you're through 5-6 rounds and you don't have a running back and you start to panic a little bit. Well, I think long-term, it'll be much easier to trade Devante Smith or Elijah Moore and pick up a good running back than it will be to try to see what Aaron Jones gets you or Travis Etienne gets you or something like that. So, I'm really torn between Devante Smith and Elijah Moore. I really like both players quite a bit. Even Michael Pittman Jr. I think is very interesting as well. But I still am a big believer in Devante Smith. So I think I'm going to take him.
Yeah. That would kind of be the exact same move I would take here as well. I think Devante Smith he's too good. Like, he's too good to feel. And I think you said earlier, it's like, I can't miss. And I don't think Devante Smith will miss. You know, he's got too much talent. So I think we'll get Devante Smith locked in the start of round number 5. And, you know, building around those young receivers as well is only ever a good thing. They got so much time. You know, Devante Smith will, you know, still be playing in the league this time, you know, could be in 10 years' time. Who knows? Like, he's great.
Absolutely. All right, let's see. We've seen some running backs come off the board. Quite a few actually come off the board here.
All right, here we are. As Zach Wilson kind of flies up towards the end, we've got, you know, you could double up here and get Jerry Judy on your team. You got that nice link with Russell Wilson, Amari Cooper sitting up the top, and the aforementioned Carson Wentz sitting up at the top there too. And I will say a caveat as well. I know, or at least I'm sure, Tom Brady's ADP hasn't quite snuck up on the app yet, so he will be lurking somewhere.
Yeah.
Should you want to take Tom Brady?
He's lower than he should be, I'm sure.
Yeah. So I just thought I'd throw it in there in case you're thinking.
Yeah. I'm not sure where he is on the app. I should look and see. But yeah,
he's been steadily coming up. Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Oh man, this one is difficult. I like Michael Carter. I like Leonard Fournette. But it's just so hard to take in Leonard Fournette. It's a short-term asset.
Yeah.
This early in a startup. Michael Carter, there could very easily be another running back in New York this next year. So
yeah.
I sound like a broken record, but I think is Dallas Goddard available, or did he get taken?
Let's just have a wee check. Dallas Goddard is still available.
Okay.
Yeah, at tight end.
All right. Well, seeing how the ADP is and knowing that we'll probably still be able to get him back around, I think let's go back to the big board here. And I'm torn between Amari Cooper and Jerry Judy. Amari Cooper is somebody that is continually underrated. Every year he ends up putting up really solid numbers. He's had several years where he's gotten in that wide receiver 1 range, and now he's in Cleveland where there are no other real receiving options. I mean, he's the guy. He's the number 1 target for Deshaun Watson. So we saw how well that worked out for a long time for DeAndre Hopkins, and then later Will Fuller. The number 1 receiver for Deshaun Watson is always good, but Jerry Judy is now there with Russell Wilson. We would get that pairing, which is always nice. I love to team guys up like that because it's fun when you get the touchdowns. You get them for both. So that's always fun. But that's a little bit more. Even though it's fun in fantasy, it's even better in DFS. But I'm gonna lean who I think is the best player available, even though he's a couple years older. I think I'm still going to go with Amari Cooper.
Yeah, I think Amari Cooper there is, you know, weirdly, even though it's a new player on a new team playing with a new quarterback on a new team, he still seems like the safer option, which is strange.
He does, which is weird. You're right.
Yeah, but let's get Amari Cooper locked in of your very own Cleveland Browns. You'll be excited about that link up he's going to have with Deshaun Watson.
Absolutely.
And we're back on the board really quickly again at the start of round number 7 as Michael Carter and AJ Dillon fly off the board. And sitting up the top here, you know, we do have Pat Freiermuth, as we sort of talked about there, and I assume Dallas Goddard is right underneath him. We talked about sort of earlier, and you know, some of the other guys still there. Cortland Sutton's still there as well. So you missed out on Jerry Judy. Cortland Sutton's still available. And then, of course, you could make your colleague very, very happy and take Mike Williams here as well.
Yes, Matt would be thrilled. Can you scroll down for me? I want to see how far down Dallas Goddard is.
Yeah, man, so
he's way too far down.
Yeah, he's sitting just around Allen Robinson, Derek Carr, Ramandre Stevenson as well, which is surprising to see him there.
I think in honor of full transparency, I think in most drafts you wouldn't be able to get him that late. So let's take him now even though we could take advantage of it and maybe sneak and get him next round.
Yeah.
I want to try to do things the right way. And I don't think he'd be available much longer. So let's grab Dallas Goddard, lock up a guy that I think is going to be a top 5 tight end this year.
Nice. So like you plan to the hot seat honor system. So some people go either one way or the other. So you're taking the honorable route. Other people have gone full, nasty and just gone, nah. Like I'm taking Tom Brady in the 18th round and like, yeah, it's so I like that you're an honorable man, Garrett. So I do what
I can.
Yeah. So we'll get Dallas Goddard locked in as our first tight end on our team. And unfortunately, Mike Williams does come off the board there. We can't get him locked in for
Sorry, Matt.
I think he's just woken up somewhere, like got a shiver somewhere, right? Just walking about minding his business.
His heart is heavy.
Yeah. Well, let's see if we can do what we can to make up for it in round number 8. At the back end of the 8th round, we got people like Tyler Lockett sitting up there, Darrell Henderson, and Rondell Moore sitting there, as well as some interesting names like Juju Smith-Schuster, new player at the Chiefs too, sitting there.
All right, so we're finally going to crack into the RB position here, and let's grab Rashad Penny. And this is the ultimate ceiling play here. We saw how he finished the 2021 season, looked fantastic in those last 5 games.
Yeah,
but we know his injury history. We know that Russell Wilson, we've talked about him quite a bit. He is no longer in Seattle. There's just a lot of moving parts there. But if he is even half of the running back that he was at the end of last year, this is great value for him. But we could also be lighting this pick on fire. But at this point in the draft, this is where I'm willing to start taking some of those gambles.
Yeah, I like that. So we're sitting sort of, round number 8. And yeah, you're right. That stage 1 you talked about was the can't miss stage. And now we're sort of in the, that high ceiling kind of stage. So let's get Rashad Penny put in. And you're right that the ceiling is the limit for him. You know that his team's going to run the ball and he's going to get a chance. Can he stay healthy? That is the big question. As some other questionable players fly off the list there as well, with Calvin Ridley coming off in the end of the 9th round. And here we are, back on the clock. It is bold, I know. And sad to see your boy Baker sitting there at the top. I imagine he's in this kind of career limbo right now. It's hard to see him talk to different journalists at the minute. He's not in a good place.
Well, I think here we got to take advantage of maybe things haven't quite caught up, or obviously this doesn't catch up with the news as quick, but this guy just signed a long-term deal, just got Devontae Adams, getting Derek Carr as our 3rd QB. The quarterbacks seem to fly off the board quicker than I even expected on here, but they seem to slow down a little bit, and him still being available, I think he could easily be quarterback 12 this season. It wouldn't shock me, maybe even quarterback 8, and it wouldn't shock me in the least.
Yeah, I like Derek Carr. He sort of got that. He just feels incredibly safe all the time. I always think of, Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins and Matt Ryan as part of this sort of safety net of quarterbacks that are just going to do a really good job for you.
Yep, absolutely. Cole Kmet, love that guy.
One of your guys, Cole Kmet. Big season coming up for him, you think, then?
I think so. Yeah, I really think him and Justin Fields are going to have a great connection this year. Really, all that was missing from Cole Kmet's game last year. He had a decent amount of targets. He had a decent amount of yards. He just had literally 0 touchdowns. Get positive touchdown regression. Things could look pretty good.
That's crazy. 0 touchdowns. Wow. Yeah. It can only go up, right? You can't score an own goal version of a touchdown, so he'll be fine, right? He'll be all right.
Exactly.
And here we are, round number 10. You got, people like Ramandre Stevenson sitting up at the top there. You've got Julio Jones. It says Tennessee. Julio Jones, I don't think is signed anywhere yet, as far as I'm aware.
He's not. He might end up retiring, man. It would be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, that's sad to see. And Davis Mills, a guy I've been kind of snapping up everywhere I can at the minute, still sitting there too, as we're on the board in round number 10. Who are you thinking?
I think we got to go Ramandre Stevenson here. I think this is really good value for him. I think a lot of these teams on here are already loaded up on running back. So he continues to stumble and fall a little bit. And this is somebody that could end up being the RB1 in New England. We know that that always, I shouldn't say always, that almost never means anything as far as security goes.
Yeah.
But we know that could be a lot of rushing touchdowns in what should be an improved offense this year. So really like getting Ramandre Stevenson here this late.
Yeah, I like it as well. We got, Romandre, he looked really good at times last year and did a good enough job that he's, in that contention along with Harris. That shows you how well he's played because, Harris is no slouch either. So Stevenson, in with a really good shot of picking up some high-end points for this team going into next year. As, we're very quickly back on the clock again. You got Tyler Boyd, Kenny Golladay, the Viscous, the tide is starting to turn on a couple of little players that are popping up now. It's not as easy or it's not as obvious anymore. So is anyone standing out to you on this list?
So we have done a great job of building a really solid wide receiver core, one that we can count on, trust in week week out. Now it's time to swing for the fences. So let's take Cadarius Tony. I think this is somebody that could end up being just a fantastic slot receiver. We've seen how he played over that 2-game stretch for New York last year, where he just looked incredible. Like guys just could not tackle him. But then there were the injuries, and he started the season slow and then didn't finish strong. And so there's a lot of question marks around him, but the ceiling is incredible on Cadarius Tony. So let's aim for that here.
Yeah, I like that. There's that high ceiling. And you're right. There was just those like 2 games where it's like, it looked like he was playing on Madden with the difficulty turned down. Like it was just no people flying around, no one could get near him. And he's got that in his locker. And, hopefully, that gets recognized a bit more in New York and they get him really, really involved with everything.
Yep, absolutely.
And here we go. We're about to enter the back end of round number 12 as Teddy B and Curtis Samuel and a couple of, riskier guys coming off the board here as we get into those, high ceiling players that you talked about earlier. And Tom Brady, there he is. He is creeping up the board. Every time I do an episode, he's getting higher and higher up the board here. So he is available there. You said you would take the honorable route. That might all collapse on itself now. You see Tom Brady sitting there. So I'll leave it up to you.
The temptation is real. But no, I will let him go, even though he would be a smash even 2 or 3 rounds earlier. But no, we're going to do the honorable thing. We're going to let him go. Looking at the running backs here, there's nobody that go ahead and click on the running back button. I'm curious to see who else, because there's a couple guys that I'm higher on.
Raheem Mostert there was sort of an interesting one, but I think you might be able to wait on him coming back.
Yeah, I think I'm going to wait. And what this would tell me too in real life is, the rookies haven't been included into this yet. This would be the range here where as soon as the rookies get put in, I'm looking at getting Rashad White, Zamir White, Damian Pierce. There's a lot of like those fringe Tyler Beatty, like those fringe running backs that things go well, they could get a good role. Things could go poorly and they wouldn't too. But here I'd be looking at trying to get 2, 3, 4 of these kind of upside running backs and hoping that 1 or 2 of them pan out. But we don't have that luxury here just yet. That'll be coming very soon. Nice. So until then, let's go back to all the available players. And the one that I'm leaning toward here, maybe you can tell me if I'm crazy, but I really like Irv Smith Jr.
Me too.
And I know it's a little wild to take a second tight end this early, but once again, we're trying to just get the best available players. If Irv Smith pans out, there are always teams that need tight ends. So you could always make a trade for him later. So I think Irv Smith Jr. is my pick here.
Yeah, I love Irv Smith Jr. Someone I've been targeting a lot. Even last year, like before the injury, I got, quite a lot of shares of him. And now, he is the only tight end in Minnesota at the minute. And you just have to look at, all those touchdowns that Adam Thielen has kind of just been gobbling up. Some of them are going to go to Irv Smith Jr. I really believe that this year. And I think he's going to have a bit of a breakout year if he can stay healthy, which is, becoming a bit of an if for him at the minute, sadly.
For sure. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, so no, Garrett, I don't think you're crazy at all. I love that pick there. So let's get Irv Smith Jr. locked up to go along with Dallas Goddard as our 2 tight ends. You got to be really pleased with that tight end room. That's 2 extremely solid players.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm very excited about that.
Nice. So I'll hide Tom Brady. He's still there. I'll just scroll down so you don't even see him. He can't even be tempted. So
Can't be tempted.
yeah,
Stay behind me, Satan.
Yeah, we got some pretty cool looking wide receivers still there. You got Nico Collins, obviously a guy that you touted a lot coming out last year. Gabe Davis, who flashed, and Brian Edwards, who's obviously been a long-term favorite of the Dynasty nerds. I mean,
yes.
I don't know what I'm going to do with my Brian Edwards shares. I guess I just hold on to them, but I don't know what to do. Can you help me with that at all, Garrett?
I wish I could, because I need to figure out what to do with mine as well.
Yeah. Maybe he'll have a Renaissance one day. His time will come, I think. I'm gonna hold on to them.
There we go. Sounds good.
Yeah. So here we are. Is anyone standing out to you on this list of players?
Yeah. I'm leaning to go Nico Collins here. This is another one where it's a swing for the fences, but Brandon Cooks is there, and I think he's going to be really solid. But I was really impressed with what I saw out of Davis Mills last year. I think he's going to be a very competent quarterback, and they are desperately needing, though, that big-bodied receiver to go up and get the football. I think after a year in the system, getting acclimated, we've seen some of these talented Michigan receivers just need a little more time. They just didn't do a good job of grooming them there at Michigan, because it's not Ohio State, of course. That's why. But I think I still believe in his talent. We saw flashes last year, but nothing consistent. But I'm going to take the upside gamble there that Nico Collins becomes their top X receiver anyway.
Yeah, I like that as well. And I'm forgetting his name at the minute, but I think at Houston, one of Davis Mills' coaches is sort of slowly building a bit of a reputation as being a bit of like a quarterback whisperer, right? He's worked a bit
Hamilton.
That is one. Yeah, his list of quarterbacks is very impressive, and hopefully he can add Davis Mills to that impressive list that he's built over the last sort of 10 years.
Absolutely, yeah. Andrew Luck and Justin Herbert, it's pretty solid.
Yeah, so let's hope Davis Mills joins that list as well, and that will only help Nico Collins, who's now locked up in our team in the 13th round. And we got a bit of a wait as Tom Brady's gone, you can relax. The hot seat just got a teeny bit cooler for you there. Just
a hair cooler. Yep.
Yeah. As here we are, we're swinging into round number 14. And what I'll actually maybe quickly do is I can give you a little glimpse of what the team's looking like in case you see any positions you're like, oh, we should maybe stock up on that. So let's see as Zach Ertz flies off the board. Let's go into our drafted, and I'll sort of by position as well, so you get to see. So you got your 3 QBs, 2 running backs. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wide receivers and 2 tight ends.
Yep, I like it. This looks pretty similar to a lot of my builds, where a couple young upside running backs, but it's mostly building through wide receivers and quarterbacks.
Yeah, I'm the exact same. So I think it's looking great right now. We're back on the board here with Marvin Jones and De'Ami Brownson at the top, and some other interesting names there too. Anyone standing out to you?
Ooh, this is a tough range. This would definitely be like taking flyers on rookie range. Let's look individually at some of these positions. Look at the running back position first individually.
Yeah, right. So you got those, PPR running backs, sitting right there. If we like Naheem Hines and J.D. McKissick, breaker of hearts, J.D. McKissick, by the way. What is that about? That was so cruel. I got so excited for all my Gibson shirts, and then
yeah, it was a wild roller coaster there for 24 hours, and now you're hearing about all of the running back visits that have come to Washington as well, and so it went from Jubilee and the in the Nintendo Gibson world into like, what's going on? Yeah, this is tough. I do have some interest in Gus Edwards. We saw him be used quite a bit in Baltimore there, so there's some interest there. What do we got at tight end?
Let's have a look. So at tight end, you got Gronk sitting there, Adam Troutman, Logan Thomas, who obviously has flashed before. Gerald Everett, probably an interesting name sitting there now. He's over at the Chargers too. And Albert O's actually there too.
Yeah, Albert O would typically be the pick, but this is once again going to be the honor system. There probably just haven't been enough mock drafts on here to update the ADP enough to get him up where he should be. So we're going to leave him alone, even though he would be the pick here for me. I tempted by Brevin Jordan too. I'm a big Brevin Jordan fan.
Mhm.
I think he's a talented player, but let's go ahead and go with Gus Edwards for now. I think that'll just help solidify our RB room, even though obviously it's not going to be one of the stronger ones in the league. He's going to get carries every week. He's going to be a part of the running game there. So let's go ahead and grab him.
Yeah, I like that. Let's get Gus Edwards locked in. And something I've predicted a few times on this show before as well is, because J.K. Dobbins is coming off the injury, it would be, a bit foolish maybe to give him such a massive workload coming right away. So I think Gus will see quite a bit of action, at the start of the season in particular.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me either, although he's coming back from an injury of his own. So they're going to have to kind of help nurse each other back to health here.
Yeah, exactly. Which will only do good things for this team as we're back on the clock again. Well, I've paused the clock. We're back on the board again. Round number 15. We got Dyami Brown still there, Van Jefferson sitting up there, as well as some other interesting prospects like Gerald Everett we talked about still there too.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and grab Gerald Everett. I think it's a good upside play. I think he's the best player on the board right now.
Yeah, I love it. Ringing true to your advice, earlier on at the first part of the show, just take the best player there. And, people have been, it's a weird one about Everett. Like, people have been screaming like, oh, whoever the Chargers sign is going to be like in my top like 5 tight ends. And then they sign Gerald Everett and everyone kind of went,
never mind. Just kidding.
I think he's quite a talented player. And, Justin Herbert's only going to make him, even better. So I think he'll do quite well.
Absolutely.
So here we are. We are in round number 16. It is our third last pick of the draft. You got Jairus Johnson sitting there, obviously, of your Browns. Really talented player. Just an unfortunate situation at the minute. He's behind 2 unbelievably talented players. So, a good player, but maybe not the best situation. And, you got some other older kind of guys sitting there too. Is anyone standing out to you?
There's one player, obviously, other than Alberto. We already talked about that.
Yeah.
There's one player that's screaming value here to me, and it's Allen Lazard. And in the past, you would have been like, ew, Allen Lazard, that's gross. But Devontae Adams is gone. We know the propensity of the Packers is to not draft an early receiver. I think they're going to finally cave and take one in the first this year. But we'll see. Who knows? I've seen Stranger Things. So, which, by the way, Stranger Things, I'm very excited for that as well. But I think Allen Lazard, even as the wide receiver 2 here, we know MVS is gone. I'm not sure what's going on with Equinemius St. Brown, but he always seems to be in and out with that team as well. So I think Allen Lazard is the best upside play here.
Yeah, I was just I had a Kev from the Fantasy Wildcard podcast. I know you've been on as well. He came on and he talked about Allen Lazard, and he called him the Lizard King, Allen Lazard. And he said like he's the wide receiver 1 at Green Bay right now. It's like that can't be right. And it's like, oh no, that is right. That's so strange. Like,
yes,
that's the position they're in right now. So you're right. If they stick true to form and don't take a wide receiver earlier, then that's going to look like an amazing pick in the 16th round.
Absolutely.
All right, here we go. Penultimate pick. We'll hide Alberto. We've talked about that as well. Amari Rodgers, also at the Green Bay Packers, didn't light the world on fire last year, but, he may well have an opportunity, which is sometimes all you need. So anyone else standing out to you there on the board?
This is going to be a little bit of a homer pick, but let's go ahead and nab Keyshawn Vaughn. Right now, there's, Ronald Jones is gone. We've seen Leonard Fournette be banged up here and there. And Keyshawn Vaughn actually had a nice little stretch there at the end of the season into the playoffs where he was being used quite a bit and performing well. So if something were to happen, I mean, we thought there was a chance, when Tom Brady left, that he was about to be the RB1 there in Tampa Bay. Obviously, that's not the case now that Fournette's back. But if injuries happen, which have happened, he's now the RB1 for Tom Brady. So I think that's good value here.
Yeah, I think as well, especially, in this kind of like 17th round, that's all you got to look for at this stage is just value. And you're right. Running backs are always going to running back and they're probably going to get injured. So, getting the backup is usually a pretty good idea towards the end of the draft.
Absolutely.
And here we go. We're about to enter round number 18 of 18, the final pick for Garrett with this amazing team that he's built so far. As we see Quintez Cephas and Jarrett Patterson. Oh, imagine you could have got Gluteus Minimus as the final pick.
I was tempted. Yeah, Brevin Jordan went too. It's like they took all my guys there.
Yeah. So we got to find room for one more guy here in the last round.
This would definitely normally be Marlon Mack, but this is another one with him being the starting back. I don't think normally we'd be able to get him this late. He'd be taken 4 or 5 rounds earlier. So I'm gonna let him go here. But I'm interested with Donta Foreman. I think that there's some upside there, and especially with all the injuries we've seen in Carolina, I'm curious about him. I've always kind of liked his game, and he showed well in Tennessee last year. He looked great before he tore his Achilles in Houston. So yeah, give me Donta Foreman.
Donta Foreman, yeah, I was surprised Tennessee kind of happily kind of let him go. I thought maybe they would have tried to make him stick around. He did such a good job, filling in last year. But yeah, he's going to do well at Carolina if he gets that chance. So let's get him locked in as our final pick of this draft, and we'll just see who the last guy. I always like to see who the last guy was. Josh Brown, the last guy coming off the board. Wow.
There we go.
Here we go. So, Garrett, let's have a little look at the team you've built on the hot seat. Handle it very, very well with Justin Herbert, Russell Wilson, and Derek Carr as your 3 quarterbacks. Doesn't really get much better than that.
Yeah, no, I feel great about our quarterback room. If that was my quarterback room in any league, I would be sitting very pretty.
Exactly. And then our running back room as well, you didn't start picking until the 8th round, and considering that, you still did an amazing job with Rashad Penny, Ramandre Stevenson, Gus Edwards, Keyshawn Vaughn, and Donta Foreman in there as well.
Yeah, I was happy how it turned out. Obviously that's the weak link of our team. We kind of knew that ahead of time that was going to be the case, unless there was good RB value that fell, which didn't really work out for us in this case. That was going to be the weakest spot, but that's the easiest one to pick up in rookie drafts. Because a lot of times those rookies perform right away, and if not, they do within the first 2 years. So you can gain those RBs quickly. It's much tougher to gain it at running back or at tight end or a wide receiver.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, speaking of wide receiver, this is, incredibly strong wide receiver room you've got with Debo Samuel being the spearhead of it, and your guy Terry McClure and Devante Smith, Amari Cooper, Cadarius Tony, Nico Collins, and Alan Lazard in there as well. Looks about as strong as it gets as well, a wide receiver there.
No, I feel great about it. I feel great about it. The only question mark would be is Debo going to be playing somewhere else? That's the only question mark of all of it, but I'm not overly worried about that. And if so, I think he's shown how dynamic he is. A team would be foolish not to utilize him in a similar manner.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And then the tight end room again as well is looking great. You got Dallas Goddard and Herb Smith and Gerald Everett, 3 starting tight ends in there as well. You feel pretty safe even if there's a bye week about putting any of them in to fill that position. So tight end looking really strong too.
Yep, absolutely agree.
Perfect. So Garrett, that is your draft done. How are you feeling after your hot seat experience? You feeling happy with the team you've picked as a whole?
I am. Yeah, this doesn't look too dissimilar from some of the actual startups that I've had in the past, where, really strong at quarterback and wide receiver, solid at tight end, and then running back is where you're going to be either trading some guys or you're going to be picking it up in the rookie room or different ways like that. So yeah, this is pretty familiar territory for me.
Awesome. And the only thing left to do now, Garrett, is just to say once again, just thank you so much for hopping on to the Dynasty Hot Seat and showing everyone how it's done on the Dynasty Nerds app and drafting an amazing team. And just a reminder, everyone, you can hop over to Dynasty Nerds, subscribe to those guys for a price cup of coffee. Why not join that nerd herd as well? I can tell you from first-hand experience, it's 100% worth it. And give Garrett a follow on Twitter at Dynasty Price and check out all the amazing stuff he's doing.
Awesome.
Brilliant. Garrett, thank you so much. And just going to remind everybody that even though the hot seat is cooling down just for another little while, just reminding you and your team should always stay lit. See you later.